When you write a simple hello.c program, the text on your screen is separated from the physical execution of your code by layers of complexity. Past the operating system, assembly instructions, and binary logic, you eventually hit the physical reality of computation, the microscopic crystalline surface of a silicon wafer. Programmers do not need to calculate electron physics to print a string of text. We rely on an engineering abstraction hierarchy, a system of structural layers that allows developers to write high-level commands while hiding the complex physical electrical routing operating beneath them. The foundation of this abstraction dates back to 1847 with George Boole's formulation of symbolic logic. Boole mapped human reasoning into strict algebraic rules of true and false, establishing a mathematical framework that perfectly mirrors binary states. At the bottom of the computational stack, a processor has no concept of code or software. It is simply routing physical electrical signals based entirely on Boole's true and false logic, opening and closing millions of microscopic switches to direct current. True mastery of computer science requires tracing this unbroken line. To understand a system, you have to know exactly how an abstract software command physically manipulates those hardware switches. Before we can build specific logic circuits to execute that code, we have to establish a top-level organizational blueprint. We need a map of how the processor interacts with memory. This diagram illustrates the von Neumann architecture. It uses a single shared memory pool to store both the program's instructions and the user data. Because there is only one pathway between the CPU and memory, the processor must fetch an instruction, wait, and then fetch the data it needs sequentially. The alternative is the Harvard architecture, which splits instructions and data into two physically separate memory blocks. Now, parallel pathways feed into the CPU, allowing it to pull an instruction and the necessary data at the exact same time. Eliminating the sequential bottleneck makes the Harvard architecture highly relevant for modern embedded systems and the high-speed cache layers built directly in today's processors. Because both blueprints store instructions in external memory, the CPU must retrieve a word before acting. This necessity creates a mandatory three-step cycle. The hardware must fetch the bit pattern, decode it into specific control signals, and route electricity to execute it. Executing any software program, no matter how complex, ultimately boils down to cycling these three steps endlessly through a specific hardware layout. Before assembling a full processor layout, we have to build the core mathematical engine that will handle the execution step. That engine is the Arithmetic Logic Unit, or ALU. A basic ALU uses a ripple carry adder to perform math. But this design introduces a massive bottleneck. To calculate the final bit of a large number, the hardware must wait sequentially for every previous bit to calculate and carry its result over, one position at a time. This carry look-ahead adder bypasses sequential delay. Notice the P and G blocks, propagate and generate, organized in a log-base-2 hierarchy. Calculating these signals in parallel determines carry bits in advance, so higher-order bits no longer wait in line. Look at the red path arrows in this diagram. They trace the optimized propagation delay through the logic blocks. By restructuring the logic, the overall calculation time drops from a slow linear scale down to rapid logarithmic time. The jump from linear to logarithmic scaling proves that processing speed is a direct result of architectural layout. Reorganizing these logic pathways eliminates the idle wait times that limit the ripple carry design. We can now drop that optimized ALU into a complete processor structure. This is the unpipelined beta processor data path, housing the ALU and establishing all the physical routes between system components. This schematic relies on multiplexers, the trapezoids labeled PC cell, A cell, and B cell, to control data flow. PC cell determines the next instruction's memory address. A cell routes register data or an instruction literal into the ALU. On the right, WD cell selects which data gets written back to the registers. This requires precise coordination. If the software executes a branch instruction to call a new procedure, what specific data does the WD cell multiplexer need to route for saving? It has to save the return address, which is the program counter +4. Without saving that exact address, the processor would never know where to resume the original program once the new procedure finishes. The processor's control logic unit handles this coordination. It is simply a finite state machine whose entire job is to assert the correct ones and zeros to these exact multiplexer select lines at the precise millisecond they are needed. Let's trace how a line of code forces these hardware changes. Imagine a program executing a C-code array fetch, written as j equals p of I. On a standard beta processor, grabbing that array value requires 3 separate assembly instructions. The processor has to shift the index left to calculate the byte offset, add that offset to the base address, and finally load the resulting value from memory. We can optimize this by inventing a brand new hardware instruction called LDX, designed to perform this indexed array fetch in a single clock cycle. For LDX, 2 register values bypass the literals, flowing directly into the ALU and feeding their summed result into the data memory address port. The control unit forces B cell to select the secondary register input, flipping its state to open the new data path. The transition to LDX proves that software efficiency is determined by hardware connectivity. Collapsing 3 steps into one requires physical reconfiguration, but hardware modifications always come with a cost. Consider a hypothetical student who attempts to redesign the beta data path to optimize how data is written. Look at the bottom right of the schematic. Instead of the original 3-input WD cell multiplexer, the redesign splits it into 2 daisy-chained muxes, WD cell 0 and WD cell 1. To evaluate this, we examine the critical path, the longest propagation delay an electrical signal faces across the circuit. By daisy-chaining 2 multiplexers sequentially instead of running signals through one larger mux, the data has to physically wait for WD cell 0 to resolve before WD cell 1 can process the result. This strictly increases the total time of the critical path. Because the processor's clock cannot tick faster than its longest delay, an increased critical path limits the maximum clock period. The entire CPU is now forced to run at a slower overall frequency. This is the golden rule of computer architecture. Every hardware addition is a physical trade-off. Adding new features frequently lengthens the critical path, costing you overall processor speed. When transitioning from theoretical schematics to manufacturing reality, designs hit physical limitations. Printed microchips frequently contain microscopic physical defects from the fabrication process. One common defect is a stuck-at-zero fault, where a specific microscopic wire or connection on the silicon permanently fails to transmit an electrical high signal, or 1. Look closely at the area labeled Fault D on this schematic. This stuck-at-zero fault on the control line physically traps the B-cell multiplexer, always selecting a value from the register file. The ALU is permanently blocked for reading an instruction literal. Engineers test for these specific defects by writing diagnostic software sequences. By writing a program that expects an addition using a literal value, like an ADDC instruction, and checking the result, they can predictably expose the hardware failure if the answer is wrong. Ensuring hardware reliability requires crafting software diagnostics capable of systematically stressing and validating every single physical electrical pathway on the chip. A perfectly functioning, bug-free processor is entirely useless without a method to receive input from the outside world. This introduces a practical interfacing challenge. A standard computer keyboard contains dozens of individual keys, but the processor has a very limited number of physical input pins available to read them. The solution is visible on this circuit diagram, a 2-dimensional matrix grid. By mapping a key press to a row and column intersection, the processor only needs to scan grid coordinates, drastically reducing the required input pins. The same principles of hardware efficiency and optimized signal routing that dictate the design of the ALU apply at the absolute outer edge of the computer system. We have traced the architectural layout from the abstract memory divisions, through the ALU's carry look-ahead adder, through the multiplexers of the data path, to matrix I/O and silicon faults. Comprehension of a computer system requires seeing this unbroken physical chain. There is no magic in the machine. Every line of code relies on the strict physical routing of electrical current. The next time you type a command or compile a program, look past the software interface. The digital abstraction is powerful, but it is the physical logic gates opening and closing beneath your fingertips that actually execute your intent.